Órale, cholo choque, los tres chingones boxing shots to all the chingones y chingonas. So, man, I've been thinking for a minute now. This fight that Canelo got's coming up against Edgar Berlanga. Um, Obviously, man, there's criticism to be thrown around there, right? But at the same time, when you really think about it, what else is there at 168 pounds for Canelo? I think honestly, man, that he's pretty much cleaned up that division. Now, I'm not talking about, guys that can move up or guys that can move down or him that he can move up or he can move down. Yeah, sure. Then you can go ahead and start twisting things around and start making some matches. But look, as it stands right now, David Benavidez is at 175. Okay. As it stands right now, David Morrell is at 175. All right. So I'm just strictly sticking to 168. Okay. I'm not talking about anybody moving up or anybody moving down whatsoever. Just sticking with guys that are at 168. That is it. All right. Not no catch weights, no moving up a division, no moving down a division. 168 and 168 only. Okay. And when you really think about it, Canelo has pretty much cleaned out that division. Now you can go ahead and make the argument, well, he never fought Benavidez when he was in that division. Again, I'm talking about here and now. Here and now. We can have that discussion on another one. But here and now, Canelo, who is fighting Berlanga, and people complaining. And look, man, I kind of think that's kind of a easy fight myself. But when I think about it, I'm like, okay, well then who else is at 168? Now let me pull up. I went ahead, I looked at the top 10 at 168. Obviously, Canelo's at the top, right? Now, number two is Christian and Billy. All right. So just recently, he's been making a name for himself. All right. Does anybody believe Christian Billy is can compete in there against Canelo? I mean, he'll probably bring the action, right? But I think Canelo finishes him. But hey, you know what? We'll see. Maybe that fight will be made sometime down the line. I'm sure it will be because really, if we're talking about 168 pounds, we're starting to run out of names to throw in there with Canelo. So I'm sure Christian and Billy is going to be considered as an opponent for Canelo sometime in the near future if some of these other guys don't really start making a name for themselves. All right. Um, Number three, Jaime Munguia. We already seen that. So eliminate that name out of there. Are we going to see a rematch? I doubt it, Holmes. I don't want to see a rematch, but hey, who knows? Again, 168 pounds is pretty thin now, right? It was pretty thick when Canelo entered it. Now 168 pounds is pretty thin. Number four, they got Osles Iglesias from Cuba. He's 10-0 with 9 knockouts. I don't really know much about him, but maybe they could start moving this guy up. He's from Cuba, so I'm assuming he's got well over 200 well over 200 amateur fights, right? Especially if his record is 10-0 with 9 knockouts. Okay. Number five, you got Diego Pacheco. Now, Diego Pacheco, 21-0 with 17 knockouts. That's a kid out of South Central Los Angeles who's starting to come up. Is he ready for a Canelo? And when I mean ready, I don't mean can the person beat him. I just mean can they compete? Honestly, I'm gonna say no. But that is a future opponent that he can probably share the ring with Canelo. Because again, 168 is pretty damn thin. Okay, now Diego Pacheco has a fight coming up this week, and I will be there to cover it. I just got to prove I got my credentials, man. So I will be there at the battlegrounds. Oh yeah, I love that place, homie. The battlegrounds in Carson. I'll talk about that a little bit on another video, man. But yeah, Diego Pacheco, he's a I think he's probably it's time for him to get him out of the prospect, right? He's got 21 fights. He'll be having 22 fights against Zaleski this Saturday. So he needs to show up and show out, man. but I still think he's way too green. I still think he's way, way, way too green, man. But again, when you think about the rest of the 168 division, let's see, number 6, you got Vladimir Shish, son of a gun, dog. Shishkin, Shishkin, I guess. He's a Russian 16-0 with 10 knockouts. Okay. Again, this guy needs to make a little bit more of a name for himself, right? He's one of those Eastern European guys, man, that I always be praising. Number 7, you got Eric Bazinian from Canada, 32-0, one draw and 23 knockouts. Now, this guy, he's the one that's going to be fighting Jaime Munguia um, in September. So we'll see what happens with that. If this guy can beat Munguia, this Eric Bazinian from Canada, if he can beat Munguia, again, he's undefeated, 32-0 with 23 knockouts. If he can beat Munguia, that can actually start pushing him into the Canelo conversation. Number 8, we got Edgar Berlanga. He'll be taking on Canelo. Number 9, we got Lester Martinez out of Guatemala. 18-0 with 15 knockouts. I don't know much about him. I don't know anything about him. So he needs to start they need to start putting his face a little bit more out there. And number 10, we got Bektemir Malikuzev from Uzbekistan. Again, one of my Eastern European guys, man. He's 14-1 with 10 knockouts. These are the top 10 in the division right now. Most of these guys are not known. All right. The guys that are known are Edgar Berlanga, maybe a little bit Diego Pacheco, Jaime Munguia, which Canelo already fought, and just recently Christian and Billy. Okay, all these other guys, nobody really knows who they are, man. And that's 168 pounds. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not even really too upset at Canelo for fighting Berlanga, because Berlanga is probably the most notable name out of this top 10 list right here. Again, when we only stick to 168. All right, when we only stick to 168. Once he beats Berlanga, which I'm assuming he's gonna do. If he doesn't beat him, hey, go for it, Berlanga. Shouts to the Boricuas, man. This is his Rocky moment. But if Canelo beats Berlanga, which I believe he will, then who's next? Who's next, man? I understand he's talking about, maybe wanting Bivol. This should Bivol win or anything. But if we just stick to 168, if we eliminate those options and we only stick to 168, Holmes, only 168, who the heck's on this list where you're like, yeah, man, I want to see him against that Vato? Because that'll be a badass fight. I guess the only one I could probably point out is Christian and Billy. Maybe. And even that doesn't really excite me much. Diego Pacheco, I mean, if he really shows up and shows out this weekend, I'll be there live covering it. We will be live here on this channel, there from the battlegrounds in Carson, covering that fight. But I look at this list, Holmes, and unless you really start getting some of these guys recognition, there's really nothing there. So you guys let me know. Again, I understand we can start playing around with weight classes and, well, 175 and 168, or, if this guy from 160 moves up, or, I know we can start playing around like that. But like I said, just for this conversation, I just want to stick with who's at 168 right now, ahorita, Holmes. And I don't really see much. I really don't, man. So you guys let me know, man. What do you guys think? Canelo at 168. I would say the next best thing is probably Christian and Billy. And even that doesn't sound too exciting. I mean, it'll be okay, I guess. You could build it up to a certain extent. So we'll see how Diego Pacheco looks, but he's way too green. Way, way, way too green. If this dude, Eric Bazingan, if he dominates Munguia, eh, yeah, it could spark up some interest. Could spark up some interest. You guys let me know. What do you guys think at 168, man? Cholo Trucker, los tres chingones, boxing shots, all the chingones y chingonas. Catch you guys on next round.